Dear students, in the previous session, we have started with the concept of project risk management. Before project risk management, we have also tried to understand the project communication management and the various aspects of the communication management process. So today, let us continue our discussion with the project risk management, try to understand the various processes which are involved in project risk management and the various strategies to respond to the risk events, whatever they are occurring in your project. The project risk management processes, there are basically 6 processes in the project risk management. The first and foremost, as usual, it is about planning the risk management. So in this particular process, we are trying to define how to conduct these risk management activities for a specific project. So this will be the overall plan of implementation or execution of your risk management in certain project. Then second step or second process is about identification of the risk. In this particular process, we are trying to determine which are the possible risks they are occurring in your project, which risk they will be affecting your project, and we are also going to document what are the characteristics of these risk categories or these risks. So this will be enable us to prepare an exhaustive list of all the risks which may be affecting your project, and along with the risk we will also have documentation of what are the various characteristics of those risks. So it will be a very useful document which is also called as a risk register to understand the variety of risks they are possibly affecting your project. Once you have this identification of the risks, then next what we have to do as process number 3 is performing the qualitative risk analysis. So we should go for risk analysis in two different methods. So if we consider the process 3 and process 4, we are going for two different types of risk analysis. One is qualitative risk analysis and another is performing the quantitative risk analysis. When we go for performing qualitative risk analysis, in this particular process, we are trying to prioritize the risk for further analysis by assessing and combining what is their probability of occurrence, and if it occurs, then what will be the possible impact on your project. So there is a matrix which is called as probability versus impact matrix, PI. So P is probability and I is impact. So we are trying to develop the PI matrix for whatever the risk categories they are identified in step number 2 or process number 2, and based upon their probability of occurrence and based upon their severity of the impact, we will be trying to prioritize the risk. Now when this probability of occurrence or severity of impact is decided, it is based upon the previous experiences, the characteristics of the risk, the type of project what you are handling, and some experts opinion they should be taken into account when you are going for deciding the probability of occurrence and the severity of impact of any particular risk category. When we go for the next step after the qualitative risk analysis and prioritization of the risk based upon their probability and impact, then we are going for the quantitative risk analysis. And when we go for quantitative risk analysis, we are trying to assign certain weights, certain values to the particular risk categories, and numerically we try to analyze what is the effect of this identified risk on the overall project objectives. So with some formulae, with some methodology, with some calculations, we will try to exactly determine the effect of these risk categories on the overall project objectives. Then next step, step number 5 or process number 5 is about planning the risk responses. So once you have the risks identified, the qualitative analysis is done to prioritize the risk, quantitative risk analysis is done to understand the effect of this risk on project objectives in a numerical manner. Then we should go for planning how the risk categories will be responded effectively. So based upon the prioritization which you have, based upon the risk register which you have prepared, and based upon the quantitative risk analysis, we should decide certain strategies, certain plans to respond the risk categories. There are certain standard methodologies to respond the risks, or there are certain standard risk responses which we can consider when we are going for planning the risk responses for the identified risk. Now when you are going for planning these risk responses, what we have to ensure is whatever response you are selecting, the way you are responding the risk, it should be such that if there are positive risks, if the risks are in the form of certain opportunities, we should be able to enhance those opportunities. And if the risks are negative risks, they are in the form of threats to the project objectives, we should be ensuring to reduce their effect on the project objectives. Then last process in this project risk management is about the control of risks. The process of implementing risk response plans, tracking the identified risks, monitoring the residual risk, identifying new risk, and evaluating risk process effectiveness throughout the project. So when we go for control risk process, so in this particular process, we have to actually implement whatever risk responses you have planned. Then you should go for tracking whatever the risks you have identified, whether they are really occurring in your project, whether they are really emerging in your project activities. When you have identified the risks, you must have estimated when those particular risks they are going to occur and what will be their effect. So whether the risks are appearing or occurring at the same occasion, same location, same activity, whether they are going for some different activity, the estimated effect, whether it is making the same effect or the effect is different, the characteristics whatever we have listed out, whether the risk is with the same characteristics or there are some different characteristics observed, so that should be monitored. So there must be tracking of the identified risk, monitoring certain residual risks. So even though you apply certain risk responses, you feel that the risk has been mitigated, the effect has been minimized, but still there will be some residual risks remaining. So we should monitor what is the effect of those residual risks on your project. Identifying new risk. So some risks they may not have identified in the initial stages when you have gone for identify risk process, because some risks they can appear, they can come to your project as completely new kind of risk, because project is a very unique activity. So you cannot compare your project with similar project which has been carried out earlier. So some of the things may be similar, but some of the things may appear which will be completely new, and risk is no exception for that. So considering this, there may be some new risk which will be coming up in your project. So we need to identify that these are also certain risk categories and they are affecting your project. And then evaluating the overall risk management process effectiveness throughout the project life cycle. So right from the initiation stage to the final closure stage, at every point of time, how your risk management process is effectively implemented, executed, that effectiveness, it should be evaluated in this control risk step or control risk process of project risk management. Coming to the next part is about the risk attitudes. So there are certain risk attitudes. So whenever we think and we discuss with respect to risk attitudes, they are of three different categories. It is risk appetite, then risk tolerance, and risk threshold. So basically we'll try to understand what this risk attitude is all about. So the organizations, they perceive risk as the effect of uncertainty on project and organizational objectives. Organizations and stakeholders are willing to accept varying degree of risk depending on their risk attitudes. The risk attitudes of both the organization and stakeholder may be influenced by number of factors which are broadly classified as risk appetite, risk tolerance, and risk threshold. So what are the risk attitudes? The way they are going to affect your project, the way uncertainty is associated with the risk categories, the way they have the probability of occurrence on your project, the way your stakeholders are looking at those particular risks, the way the entire organization is looking at those particular risks, and the characteristics of your risk category. So these all will be nothing but the contributors in your risk attitude. And when these are the various contributors, the various factors, like risk appetite means it is the degree of uncertainty an entity is willing to take on in anticipation of a reward. When we consider the risk tolerance, it is the degree, amount, or volume of risk that an organization or individual will withstand. So how much it can withstand or it can sustain. And risk threshold, it is referring to measures along the level of uncertainty or the level of impact at which stakeholder may have a specific interest. So it, when we say about the risk threshold, it is with respect to certain level of uncertainty. Below that level, the organization will accept the risk. If it is going above that level, then the organization will think of whether the risk need to be transferred or uh, it need to be mitigated in a proper sense. Above that risk threshold, the organizations will not tolerate the risk. So they will attack that particular risk. They will try to uh, respond it very strongly, and they will not accept that particular risk category. Then looking at the various processes in project risk management, we will go one by one. So first is plan the risk management. So in this plan risk management process, what we are basically doing is we are trying to define how to conduct this risk management activities in your project life cycle. The key benefit what you are getting by executing this planned risk management process is it will be ensuring that the degree, type, and visibility of risk management are commensurate with both risks and importance of the project to your organization. So once you have this planned risk management process you are trying to execute, so during this you will be ensured what is the degree of your risk management, what is the type of risk management, the visibility of risk management, and these will be from the point of view of how much your project is important to your organization. The risk management plan is vital to communicate with and obtain agreement and support from all stakeholders to ensure the risk management process is supported and performed effectively over the project life cycle. So when you prepare this document, of planning the risk management, or when you prepare this risk management plan, then this particular plan must be shared, must be communicated to all the stakeholders, and their agreement, their support, it must be ensured, because to to execute this risk management process, you will need the support of the stakeholders, you will need certain resources, you will need certain technical help. So in all those sense, the agreement and support from all the stakeholders is very, very essential, and this will ensure that your risk management process is supported, and also it is performed effectively over the entire project life cycle. The various inputs, tools and techniques and outputs for this particular process, that is it tools, they are inputs are, you should have your project management plan with you. The project charter should be clearly defined and it should be ready. The stakeholder register you should have maintained, because you need to communicate your risk management plan to the stakeholders. So we should have basically the stakeholder register ready. Enterprise environmental factors and organization process assets. So you may also observe that these enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets, these are common inputs to almost all the processes involved in all 10 knowledge areas, because they are the common inputs required for anything which is to be executed in your project. Once you have these inputs with you, then you can go for applying certain tools and techniques like analytical techniques. You can take the expert judgment, you can conduct the meetings, and finally you will be coming out with output which will be in the form of the risk management plan, completely prepared and ready for execution. Second step is about the risk identification. So when we say about identification of the risk, it is the process of determining which risk may affect the project, and we should document their characteristic. So identification of risk is nothing but, it is nothing but going for listing down the various possible risks. That particular risk may occur, may not occur in the project which is ongoing, but whatever are the possible types of risks which are possibly occurring or affecting your project, these all should be listed down. And simply listing down the risk categories, risk, it is not important. We should also document what are the characteristics of these all risks. The key benefit of this process is the documentation of existing risks and knowledge and ability it provides to the project team to anticipate the events. So the basic benefit what you are getting from this particular step is, once you have completed this particular step, the risks have been identified, then this particular document, that is your risk register, will be helpful to the project team to anticipate the risk events. And not only anticipate the risk event, they will also be made available with the characteristics to know what are the possible effects of this risk on your project. Participants in risk identification activities may include project manager, project team members, risk management team. If you have prepared a separate risk management team in your organization, then the customers will be also involved. Some subject matter experts which may be outside the project team, they may be also involved. You can use the end users in this particular process. You can consider the opinions and the feedbacks from project managers which are working on maybe other projects, other activities. Stakeholders, whatever stakeholders of your project, they should be taken into account. and some risk management experts. So this is almost an exhaustive list for the people, for the uh, key entities who must be involved in the risk identification process. Why this list must be exhaustive? Because when you are identifying the risk, this particular process must be done very thoroughly. You should not neglect, you should not ignore some entities, some people, because their opinions may be very, very valuable in risk identification process. Your risk identification should be very thorough, should be very uh, in depth, so that nothing will be left, nothing will be neglected, nothing will be ignored. So you can see the list who all will be involved in this risk identification activity. So whatever possible, try to involve as many as possible key persons in risk identification activity. Identify risk is an iterative process because new risk may evolve or become known as the project progresses through the life cycle. So risk identification is not a one-time exercise, is not a single point of time activity. This will be an iterative process. So it will be ongoing process. It should be followed at regular intervals in your project life cycle, because as you progress for the various activities in your project, at every point of time there are always chances that some new risk, they may be identified, they may be appearing, and they may be affecting your project. So because of that, the risk register should get updated, it should get modified, revised whenever you find that certain new risks which were not identified, they are coming into picture, so that the risk register will be an updated document. The frequency of iteration and participation in each cycle will vary by situation, so that project to project, depending upon the volume of work in your project, depending on the domain in which your project is going to be executed, depending on the previous experiences of your organization, so they can decide what will be the frequency of iteration and how much will be the participation of this process in each cycle. The format of the risk statement should be consistent to ensure that each risk is understood clearly and unambiguously in order to support effective analysis and response development. The risk statement should support the ability to compare relative effect of one risk against other on the project. So this risk statement, what you are preparing, it must be consistent, it must be uniform, to ensure that the risk will be understood clearly and unambiguously. Because if the risk statement is not clear, if the risk statement is not having enough clarity, then people may misunderstand the risk, people may have some confusion, and that will be affecting the analysis of that particular risk. Also it is going to affect the development of response strategy to this particular risk category. So the risk statement what you are preparing, it should also support what, it should support the comparative analysis of the variety of risk, how they are going to affect on your project, so that you will come to know which should be prioritized, which should be given the priority. So for prioritization, the analysis using comparison, that is very useful. The process should involve the project team so that they can develop and maintain a sense of ownership and responsibility for the project, for the project risk and associated risk response actions. So it is very essential that this identification of the risk process must involve the project team members, if they are not involved, they will feel that somebody else has identified the risk and simply they have been given work to tackle, to respond those risks. Instead of that, if you involve those people, if you involve the entire project team and they identify the risks, then there will be a sense of ownership that yes, this risk category, this particular risk was identified by me, and because I have identified this, it is my responsibility that I should try to find out how it can be responded, how its effect can be minimized, how its occurrence can be eliminated. So some sense of ownership, some sense of responsibility that will get generated among the project team members because they have been involved in this identification of the risk processes. Stakeholders outside the project team may provide additional objective information. So sometimes some stakeholders who are not involved in project teams but they are associated with the project as stakeholders, they should be also consulted because they will be able to provide certain additional information which may be very useful from your project point of view. Then the next part is about risk register. So this particular risk register is a very important document as far as the entire project risk management process is concerned. So when you go for the previous activity, that is identification of the risk, then the output of this particular activity, the primary output is nothing but the creation of document which is called as risk register. So whenever the project team or the people who have been assigned that identification of the risk activity, whenever they identify certain risk, they will make the entry of that risk into the risk register. And when they go on entering, making the entry of risk category in risk register, likewise the list will go on becoming exhaustive and your risk register will become more and more foolproof with respect to the risks possible for a specific project. The risk register is a document in which the results of risk analysis and risk responses planning, they are recorded. So in this risk register, what you are going to do is this will be containing all the risk categories they have been identified, and then it will be also containing the analysis of your risk and what are the possible risk responses planned for that risk category. It contains the outcome of the other risk management processes as they are conducted, resulting in an increase in the level and type of information content in the risk register over time. So this risk register will be going on revising, going on updating time to time because it may not be completely prepared at once. The risk identification will be an ongoing process. The analysis of the risk as the new risks are going to come in picture, the analysis, prioritization, ranking, that is going to vary, and risk response strategies also, they need to be decided time to time depending on the situation. So that's why there will be always this risk register will be always a kind of dynamic document, so it will be always going to be updated. The preparation of the risk register begins in the identify risk process with the following information and then becomes available to other project management and risk management processes. So initially it starts or it is created in the identify risk process, and later on this document risk register will be available to other people who are involved in project management and risk management processes. So what this will be having list of identified risks. So the identified risks are described in as much detail as is reasonable as possible. So what we have discussed earlier, the risk along with their characteristics. So the overall information, the maximum information that you can provide with respect to those particular risk category, that is essential when you are going for list of this identified risk. In addition to the list of identified risks, the root causes of those risks may become more evident. So if the root causes of these risk categories, they are also identified, they are also documented, this will be giving a very useful information to the project team, and in certain cases they can also work on eliminating the root causes so that the risk itself will not appear, will not occur in your project life cycle. These are the fundamental conditions or events that may give rise to one or more identified risks. They should be recorded and used to support future risk identification for this and other projects. So this particular risk register document will not be only useful for that specific project. Whenever similar kind of project the company will be thinking of executing, this risk register will serve as a basis for the risk identification process for another project of the same kind. Then another part which will be there involved in risk register is list of potential responses. When we say potential responses, they may sometimes be identified during the identify risk processes. These responses, if identified in this process, should be used as input to the planned risk response processes. So during the risk identification stage, it is always advisable that once you identify a particular risk, we should try to define its characteristics. We should try to enlist the various root causes of this particular risk. We should be able to give the probable effects of this risk on the project objectives, and at the same time we should be also able to document what are the possible risk responses to the risk category identified. Now once you have this possible risk responses documented in the risk register, in risk management process, when you go for planning the risk responses, during that phase or for that particular phase, if you refer to the risk register, one thing is sure that you will get the list of variety of risks associated with your project, but at the same time you will be also supplied with the information as during that point of time what was thought of, how the risks will be responded. So you can take some guidance, you can take some reference from those responses which were documented during identification process, and then you can actually plan what will be the response strategies to be applied to the specific risk categories under consideration. So after the risk identification process, moving to the next, that is qualitative risk assessment. Now when we say qualitative risk assessment or qualitative risk analysis, it is the process of prioritizing the risk for further action or further analysis by assessing and combining their probability of occurrence and impact. So as we have discussed earlier, what we have to check is what is the probability of occurrence and what is the impact. The key benefit of this process is that it enables the project manager to reduce the level of uncertainty and to focus on high priority risk. So project manager will be very happy if the qualitative risk analysis is done at very micro level, because this is going to help him to reduce the level of uncertainty and since you have already done the prioritization, it will be easier for the project manager to focus on high priority risk so that automatically the low priority risk which may be dependent on these high priority risk, if these high priority risks are tackled, they are responded properly, then definitely the low priority or low ranking risks, their effects will be very minimal. The ITO inputs, tool techniques, and outputs for qualitative risk assessment are inputs. You should have your risk management plan with you. The scope baseline that we should know. The risk register, which is the outcome of your identification of the risk processes. Again, enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets, common inputs for most of the knowledge areas processes. The tools and techniques what you are going to apply to these inputs. One is risk probability and impact assessment. How we are going to do it? By the probability and impact matrix. Then risk data quality assessment, the data which is available for risk, we should go for quality assessment of the data. Categorization of the risk categories or risk events, whatever they are identified. Risk urgency assessment, and finally taking certain expert judgments. What we get as output from this qualitative risk assessment is your project documents, they will get updated. The project documents, they will get revised to complete or to incorporate these all qualitative risk assessment updates. So perform qualitative risk analysis assesses the priority of identified risks using their relative probability or likelihood of occurrence, the corresponding impact on project objectives if the risk occurs, as well as other factors such as the time frame for response and the organization's risk tolerance associated with project constraints like cost, schedule, scope, and quality. So whenever we are going for qualitative risk assessment, various factors we should take into account. What will be the time frame for your responses? What will be the organization's risk tolerance? What are the various constraints in terms of cost, schedule, scope, and quality? So these all should be taken into account when you are going for qualitative risk assessment. Such assessment reflect the risk attitude of project team and other stakeholders. So once you do this qualitative risk assessment, we will come to know what is the risk attitude for your project team as well as what is the risk attitude of all the stakeholders about this particular project. Effective assessment therefore requires explicit identification and management of risk approaches of key participants in the perform qualitative risk analysis process. So it is very essential, it is always desired and advisable that the explicit identification and management of risk approaches from key participants, key stakeholders, they should be involved in perform qualitative risk analysis process, where these risk approaches introduce bias into the assessment of identified risks. Attention should be paid to identifying the bias and correcting for it. Establishing definitions of the levels of probability and impact can reduce the influence of bias. The time criticality of risk related actions may magnify the importance of a risk. So time is very precious, time is very critical. Whatever risk related actions you are taking into account, if the time is not critically handled, it is may going to magnify the importance of that particular risk. An evaluation of the quality of the available information on project risk also helps to clarify the assessment of risk importance to your project. Perform qualitative risk analysis is usually a rapid and cost effective means of establishing priorities for planned risk responses and lays the foundation for perform quantitative risk analysis. So this particular step, this particular process of performing qualitative risk analysis, this is a foundation, this is a reference document, reference for planning the risk responses and also for performing the quantitative risk analysis. Perform qualitative risk analysis process is performed regularly throughout the project life cycle. It is not again one time exercise. This should be performed at regular intervals as defined in project risk management plan. So in project risk management plan, it will be defined what will be the frequency of conduction of this qualitative risk analysis performance. So according to that frequency which is defined, this particular process must be performed regularly throughout the project life cycle. So next part in this is to do this qualitative risk analysis, we should go for probability and impact matrix. The risk can be prioritized for further quantitative analysis and planning risk responses based on their risk rating. Now, when you are going for preparing the risk rating or ranking, the ratings are assigned to risk based on their assessed probability and impact. So we should go for giving the ranking, priority or rating to this risk based upon how much is the probability and the impact of those particular risk. Normally, when the risk is evaluated, we take the product of this probability and impact. If both are higher, the probability versus the probability into impact, probability and impact product, the value will be very huge. So if one goes for very lower side, the overall product will get hampered. The overall effect of the risk category will be hampered. So based upon this, we should have that probability versus impact. Evaluation of each risk's importance and priority for attention is typically conducted using lookup table or probability or impact matrix. This matrix specifies combinations of probability and impact that lead to rating the risk like low, moderate and high priority risk. So once you have the risk categories or risks, they have been listed and entered in this probability impact matrix, then you can classify them as low priority risk, moderate priority risk and high priority risk depending upon their place in that probability impact matrix. So next slide, we'll try to understand this probability impact matrix in visual format, how it is prepared. Descriptive terms or numeric values can be used depending on organizational preference. So sometimes you can go for using some numbers, some numeric values assigned to this risk category. Each risk is rated on its probability of occurrence and impact on an objective if it does occur. The organization should determine which combinations of probability and impact result in a classification of high risk, moderate risk and low risk. So depending upon this probability impact matrix, the organization will be able to classify the various risks which are occurring as the high priority risk, moderate priority risk and low priority risk. Usually these risk rating rules are specified by the organization in advance of the project. So initiation phase, before your project is started, in advance we are going for preparing the risk rating rules, and these are included in organizational process assets. So whenever we say that, always for many of the processes we say the inputs, it includes this organizational process assets. So there the rules will be specified, and once you are taking this organizational process assets as your input, then the rules which are specified in that, they should be followed when you are going for rating of the risk. Risk rating rules can be tailored in the planned risk management process to the specific project. So there may be some generalized rules in the organizational process assets based upon a specific project. These can be tailored, these can be modified when you are preparing the risk management plan, or you are going through the planned risk management process, so that for that specific project, the rules which have been defined for rating, they can be slightly modified. This is a kind of probability versus impact matrix which is defined by PMI. This diagram is directly taken up from the PMBOK published by PMI. So you can see on left hand side there is a vertical column which is having heading as probability, and below that you will find certain numbers 0.10, 0.30, 0.50, 0.70, 0.90. So if you convert that into percentage, we can say 10% probability of occurrence, 30% probability of occurrence, 50%, 70%, and 90% probability of occurrence. And if you refer to the last row, the numerical values or the impact of the risk categories on project objectives. The objective may be any project objective, it may be cost, it may be time, it may be scope, or it may be quality. So in certain numerical format, some standard steps, the impact values have been given. So when I say the impact is 0.05, we consider that it is very low impact. Then we go for 0.1, which is a low impact, 0.2 moderate impact, 0.4 it is high impact, and when we say 0.8 it is very high impact. Similarly, we go in the reverse manner, 0.8, 0.4, 0.2, 0.1, 0.05, from very high to very low. Now you can observe, if you look at the diagram carefully, then there are certain I will just show you. You can observe here, there are certain specific cells which have been given some dark color, dark gray. Then here on other side there are light gray color, and in between it is very light. If you look at the values, so this is 0.9 and this is 0.4. As I have discussed, the effect of any risk category, it is calculated as probability multiplied by its impact. So 0.9 multiplied by 0.8, you can see it is 0.72. If I say 0.9 and 0.4, it is 0.36, 0.9 and 0.2, 0.18, 0.9 and 0.1, 0.09, and 0.9 into 0.05, it is 0.05. So likewise, so it is approximately 0.05. Likewise, each probability multiplied by the corresponding impact, the values have been written, and now based upon the values, what we observe is the risk categories which are having very high probability as well as very high impact, like this 0.72, you can say this 0.28, 0.56, 0.36, 0.4, 0.2. These are all nothing but what? These are the high priority risk. These are the severe kind of risk. As you move towards the origin, you can see the probability multiplied by impact. The values will go on lowering, and those will be considered as very low priority risk. And the intermediate, this will be moderate priority risk. So this is all about when we consider that these are the threats, these are the negative risks. If you go on the other side, if the risks are positive, they are in the form of certain opportunities, then the risks which are having high probability and high impact, this should be given priority. Again, now in earlier case, priority should be given to minimize their effect, to minimize their chances of occurrence. Now in this case, priority should be given to increase their chances of occurrence, to increase their probability of occurrence as well as increase their impact on your project, so that because they are highly desirable kind of risk categories and they are in the form of positive risk, or they are in the form of opportunities to your project. So at the bottom you can see each risk is rated on its probability of occurring and impact on an objective. If it does occur, the organization's threshold for low, moderate or high risk are shown in the matrix and determine whether the risk is scored as high, moderate or low for that particular objective. This is another diagram for probability versus impact, or likelihood versus consequences. So you can see likelihood is nothing but the probability of occurrence. So greater than 90% chance means it is almost assured this kind of risk is going to occur. Likely, moderate, unlikely and rare. If the chances of occurrence are less than 3%, we say it is a rare kind of risk. If it is 3 to 10, it is unlikely, may not come. If it is a moderate 10 to 50% chances, then possibly it is going to come. Or there are chances when the probability is 50 to 90%, almost we are expecting the risk to be occurred, and when it is greater than 90%, it is extremely 100% almost we are assured that that kind of risk is definitely going to occur. Similarly, when we go for consequences, that is nothing but the impact. So now you can see again, insignificant risk is easily mitigated by normal day-to-day process. So we can manage that particular risk properly. We can respond it properly. We can respond it easily. When we go for minor kind of impact, delay up to 10% in your schedule, or maybe 10% additional cost in your budget, that may be the effect of this minor kind of risk. When we go for moderate impact, the schedule may be increased by 30%, the cost or budget may be increased by 30%, so that is moderate. When we go for major impact on your project, so the schedule may go for the time overrun of 50%, the cost may be escalating to 50% additional, and the last is disastrous, that is catastrophic. So in that particular case, the project needs to be abandoned because the risks are so severe, the impact of risk is so harmful to your project objectives, that project cannot be continued. The project needs to be stopped. The project needs to be terminated at that point of time itself. So based upon these consequences and the likelihood, you can also see the consequences and likelihood which has been combined as red color. These are nothing but the extreme cases. extreme kind of risk categories which should be given a very high priority. Then yellow boxes which have been mentioned as high, these are high priority. Then you can have moderate, and lastly you can have the low priority risk. The quantitative risk analysis part will continue in the next session.